I have wanted to talk about this Studio Ghibli film for a long time. It is at the top of the list as far as my favorites from Studio Ghibli, and it might be my favorite animated movie of all time. Let's talk about Princess Mononoke. Hey friends, it's me, the Ebony Otaku, the well rounded nerd. I want to talk to you today about Mononoke Hime, or Princess Mononoke, that came out from Studio Ghibli some years ago. Now, I'm really going to date myself with this one. I was actually privileged to see Princess Mononoke in theaters. And it's one of the few anime that I will watch dubbed instead of subtitled. I typically want subtitles because I think original spoken language is beautiful because it better fits the tone of the art. Art is representative of the society where that art was created. But in this case, they did a really good job with the voice actors. I watched it subtitled and I've watched it dubbed. In the theaters in America, of course, we saw it dubbed, but they did a really good job casting this one. So there's no disconnection from the characters because the voice is way off from the character. They got it right, and they got Howl's Moving Castle right too, which I'll talk about that in another video. But I will say, when Ghibli movies come over to the States, they tend to do a pretty good job with the voice acting. But enough about me gushing on about the voice acting. Let's actually talk about the movie. This is a deep film, and it's based in Japanese mythology. Anytime I can find a story based in mythology, whether it's Norse mythology, Greek and Roman mythology, different African cultures mythology, love Egyptian mythology especially, Irish mythology, Chinese, Japanese. When you read and study the mythologies of different cultures, you see a lot of the roots of why different traditions and belief systems have come into place and how those long-standing traditions support a healthy society in a lot of cases. You know, when I was a kid and I saw Princess Mononoke in theaters, it was just a big, pretty movie. It was a movie about fighting monsters in the forest and people taking over the forest. And it was the Japanese Fern Gully, basically. It was the messaging about, hey, don't destroy the forest, take care of the animals, and everything's going to be good. But it's a little deeper than that. Okay, it's a lot deeper than that. And I want to explore a lot of that. Our story opens with Prince Ashitaka of the Anishi people that live way away from the rest of society, so far away that a lot of people think his particular tribe is a myth. Ashitaka is the last prince of this mythical tribe, and they are so distinct in that they ride red elks, they make tools and weapons from beautiful jade, and they live in harmony with nature and the old gods of the forest. This is a culture in which animals in the forest aren't just mindless, brainless beasts. They are thinking, feeling, magnanimous beings. They control the forest. They give life to the forest. And if humans can live in balance with the spirits of the forest and their human settlements, then they are able to prosper as a group. And the forest, to an extent, will protect those humans. There's balance. You know, there's no scenario where humans aren't going to take anything from the forest, but they are very grateful for the things they take. They give offerings and thanks if they have to take an animal's life. It's not unlike looking at the First Nations people of the Americas. If I'm going to take a life from the land, I'm going to be thankful for that life that was given to sustain me. If I'm going to have to cut down trees or take water, I'm going to do well with it and not take more than what's needed. And this is the type of tribe Ashitaka comes from. Well, one day his tribe is attacked by a boar god that has gone mad. It is infected with rage and an evil spirit that shows up in the form of worms, snake like creatures that are extruding from the flesh of this giant boar. This giant boar has a mind, it speaks, and it was the protector of that portion of the forest. Now, ordinarily, one doesn't just go out killing gods of the forest. That's not a thing. But when that god is infected and suffering, it's only right to put it out of its misery. And that's what Ashitaka does. And he is respectful about it. He tries to chase the boar away initially, and it says, hey, mighty one, please, quell your anger towards us and leave. But the boar is so infected with rage and hate, all it wants to do is destroy and kill. It's very sad, actually. In the process of protecting his village and his little sister from this attacking boar, in its maddening rage, he is actually touched on his arm by these tentacled things that are infecting the boar. And it's literally the touch of hate. And because of that touch upon his flesh, he's not allowed to remain in his village, which is so sad because he was protecting his village. But they let it up to fate to decide whether or not Ashitaka can remain. And the fates decide that whatever has touched him from this boar, Ashitaka's new mission in life is no longer to be the prince of his people, but to travel to distant lands and discover why this boar god was infected by so much hate and rage, and how it managed to travel so far and bring that hate into a people and a portion of the forest that just didn't know of those things. Now, there's a reason all of this is happening. There's always a reason. Way on the other side of forest, miles and miles away, there is a town called Irontown that is run by a pretty fierce woman named Lady Eboshi. Lady Eboshi is a mysterious woman that just showed up one day with guns. This is a part of history where firearms aren't really a thing yet. Gunpowder has come over from China. They've discovered that you can, get a tube, put an iron ball in it, shoot it, and, kill things. Well, iron ore is very valuable, but to mine iron ore, you have to strip the land. And Lady Eboshi came to Irontown to make her fortune, but to make that fortune, she has to destroy the forest to get to the iron ore that's under the ground and under the watershed. The gods of the forest fought back against Lady Eboshi because she's literally destroying the forest in order to support the town, make a living, make profit, do what humans are going to do. And a particular boar god attacked Irontown, and it was shot with one of these newly fashioned guns with a ball of iron that Ashitaka's village actually discovered in that boar. So it's that piece of iron that is guiding him. Ashitaka is given what killed and drove this boar mad to go out and find out, where did this come from? He doesn't know about Irontown yet, but all of this is happening, and he's going to discover it as he continues on his journey. He meets a lot of really interesting characters as he keeps traveling towards his ultimate goal, which is going to be Irontown. He just doesn't know it yet. And he runs into a monk who recognizes, because he's a monk who's learned in the old ways and the old people, he recognizes that Ashitaka's on a red elk. He recognizes the materials that his arrowheads are made for, the type of cloak he uses. He knows that this young man is of the Inishi people. But he keeps it a secret because he himself belongs to a mythical race that if people knew this group still existed, bad things might happen to them because they're kind of on the same level as forest spirits. They're protectors and guides of the forest. They live in harmony with nature, and the rest of the humans out there aren't trying to live in harmony with nature. Now, this monk is interesting because, usually when you think of religious figures, you think of piety, servitude, doing the right thing. This ain't that monk. This is not that monk. This particular monk is actually sent by the emperor at this particular time in history to aid in what Lady Eboshi and Irontown are trying to do, but take it a step further and kill the central spirit of the forest. All of the animals that have a godlike status have that, their gigantism, their ability to speak to humans. All of that exists because of the forest spirit. It gives life to the rest of the forest. And during the day, it appears as a giant deer that is multi antlered with a human monkey like face and feet like a bird. But at night, it turns into the Night Walker, which is this giant translucent star filled creature that keeps guard over the forest by night. The emperor wants the head of the forest spirit. What Lady Eboshi did in Irontown by shooting that one boar was a taste of what was to come. For thousands of years, the animals, the gods, had ruled the forest, but humans were growing in number, and the forest wasn't allowing them all of the control they needed in order to build the type of societies that they wanted when it came to things like profit, taking care of themselves, having shelter, food. That animals weren't about that life. And they are literally at odds with the forest. You might even say that this is a movie about killing gods. So let's hover here for a moment. This is a movie that highlights why traditions exist, why certain belief systems in a society prevail. Rules exist to keep society safe so that everyone, humans, animals, all of nature, everyone should be able to live in harmony and prosper. But eventually, there comes a group that wants to prosper more than others. And in order for that to happen, the old ways have to die for the new ways to take root. This movie culminates in a great battle, literally between the modern world and the traditional world coming to a head together. And caught in the middle of that is a girl who represents both sides. A human girl whose parents were defiling the forest, and the wolf goddess Moro adopts her as her own and raises this human child as one of her wolf pups. And that is San, Princess Mononoke. She is Moro's beautiful, ugly daughter because she is a human who was raised to act as a wolf. But San can't be that forever. And San, even though she's a human, is working with the animals of the forest to fight against what Lady Eboshi, Irontown, and those that want the head of the forest spirit, she's fighting against their ends. But she's a human. She can't escape that. Even though she has this set of values based on where she was raised and how she was raised, she still can't escape the fact she's a human. And some of the animals of the forest let her know that. Why is this human speaking amongst gods? She's just a human. And continually, Moro and her fellow pack members have to protect San from not just humans trying to kill her, but other animals trying to kill her. Well, flip to the other side, Ashitaka at one point actually meets San. He travels and makes it to Irontown. He's led there by this weird little monk who's kind of in the background orchestrating everyone to his own ends. And people are being manipulated and don't know they're being manipulated because that's kind of how manipulation works. But Ashitaka makes it to Irontown. And he sees that even though this town is destroying the forest, he finds out that this is where that ball of ore that drove the boar god mad came from. He also sees the kind side of Lady Eboshi. Lady Eboshi takes in lepers that have been cast out from society. These are people who have a highly transmittable disease that's rotting their flesh. They're all bandaged up, but they work closest to her in her workshop developing new weapons with gunpowder. She takes in women who have been cast out from society. They were brothel workers or women on the street, girls who maybe have been sold to be geisha or something else. And she takes them in and gives them a real life and a chance to make a living for themselves away from the restrictions of society. And then there are the men who work in Irontown. Irontown was once a place that was only run by men. And now a woman has come in to be in control. And there are men who complain about that, but none of them can deny that they are far more profitable and organized since Lady Eboshi showed up. And Ashitaka sees all of this. Even though the forest is being destroyed, she's doing good for all of these humans. You know, it's interesting. Every time Ashitaka meets someone on his journey, whether it's the monk, Lady Eboshi, people in Irontown, other forest gods, they always ask him, what is his mission? What is his purpose? And he always responds, it's to see with eyes unclouded by hate. Every creature, every person in this story has been infected by hatred and rage. The spirits of the forest that used to live in harmony with the humans now hate them and intentionally attack them, not for food purposes, but to just drive them out of their forest. The humans who used to be friends with the beast of the forest now shoot them. They see them as adversaries in their pursuits. This wasn't the way it was meant to be. This is not what the tradition dictates. This wasn't what the forest spirit gave life to the other animals to happen. And Ashitaka can see both sides. San physically represents both sides. She is a human raised among the animals. Ashitaka is a human who has been affected, even though he was so far away from where all of this originated. He is a human whose life is forever changed because of the hate of others. Let's sit in this for a moment. So, Ashitaka was touched on his arm by the infected boar god. That touch was literally the symbol and spirit of hatred. And over time, that mark will grow and it will eventually consume Ashitaka body and soul. And he knows it. He's hoping in his travels he might make it to the forest spirit to find a cure for this, but ultimately he wants to find out why it happened. We as humans, as we have interactions, as our actions ripple effect throughout the world, we often don't think of what's going to happen as a result of what I do today. We're all so wrapped up in what affects me and those close to me that we don't consider that the actions we take in this place could have ramifications somewhere else. Wow, that hits a little bit too close to home in these Rona times. Hmm. What I do isn't just about me. If I have hate in my heart for my fellow man, if I have hate in my heart for another, that's an infectious disease. And it can consume me, and I can be so vitriolic that it consumes others. That's some deep thought from an animated movie. But that's exactly what's happening. Because the two sides refuse to come together and understand one another, that means they have chosen war. They've chosen the path of hate. And regardless of what the ultimate motivations are, if what one is doing produces destruction and hatred, it was the wrong course of action. And that's what Ashitaka is trying to reveal to the gods of the forest and to the humans. And neither side wants to hear it. But the bridge he has to get to those forest spirits is through San, Princess Mononoke, the princess of the wolf spirits. The bridge he has to get to the humans is through Lady Eboshi. And if he can get these two women to recognize that the other side's point is valid, then perhaps we can work towards peace. And isn't that the ultimate message of a movie like this? The other side is valid. I might not understand it. I might not agree with it, but it's valid because it's based on the norms and traditions and mores that a person comes up with through their life experiences. It's like having a pair of glasses on, which I do wear glasses, but they're over on the table right now. You know, if I was to take my glasses off and hand them to you, you could see a little of what I see, but those glasses were made for my eyes. And that's what life experience is. That's what traditions are. They are lenses specifically made for you. And in order to see through another's lens, we literally have to take off the glasses and hand them over. But the other side has to be willing to take them and put them on to see with eyes unclouded by hate. The traditions that are reverenced in this movie of being one with nature, of being grateful for what nature provides, of how family structure is supposed to work, of caring for one another. It's sad because hatred kills these traditions. Traditions don't die. They don't. Traditions are killed. People intentionally look at what was and decide that it's too old, it's no longer relevant, we're not going to do it that way anymore. Because what I've experienced is something different. Even though this has worked okay for however long, I want to do something different. And I want something different so bad that I don't just want to change the old ways, I want to destroy the old ways. And that's where some of our societies that are really entrenched in tradition, that's where they start to crumble and fall. Because newer generations look at the old traditions of the society and think, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want those values. I don't want that to be my worldview. But instead of understanding that other generation and adapting, I will choose to kill that which I don't understand. And what happens when we do that is we destroy more than we intended to. Now, even though this movie is, 20 years old or more at this point, I don't know off the top of my head, it's been a while. Even though this movie it has been out for some time, I don't want to spoil the whole thing. I want you to go watch it and watch it again and watch it again, because every time I watch it, something else jumps out at me about this movie. And think about the world that you live in. What are those things that maybe tradition dictates and some are good and maybe some need to go? Because if we just want to bury the past and not seek to understand it, well, that's how we accidentally repeat things that we thought were done and over with. We must learn from the experiences of the past. Where there is wisdom, we must pull that wisdom. And where there is hatred, we must uncover it, pull it out by its roots, and stamp it out. That's what Ashitaka is seeking to do. How can he pull this hatred out by its roots? Because even though Lady Eboshi at her core has noble motives, her method for achieving her means is going to cause her to destroy more than she intends to destroy. Even though San has purity in her motives to protect the forest, her zeal to do that will cost her more than she intends. And all that monk wants is the money for killing the forest spirit. But again, to kill the forest spirit will cost everyone so much more than what they intend. To kill tradition, to kill the old ways, to kill the wisdom that our ancestors tried so hard to pass down to us. What are we losing by completely destroying it? So I hope that got you at least a little interested in seeing Princess Mononoke. It's very easy to access if you have the HBO. It's an HBO. All the Ghibli movies are. Of course, you can buy it on YouTube. I don't know where else. I mean, I have a complete collection of all the Studio Ghibli films because I'm a real good otaku, and that's what we do. But as always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what movie you would like for me to review next.